So, if you read science fiction or fantasy, there you go. But yeah, if you answered yes to any of these things, well, hey, welcome. You are among friends, fellow mad scientists. um, I imagine you guys are all here because you've all shown at least some interest in engineering. And a lot of times these are, I'm sorry to say, the symptoms of an interest in engineering. No, just messing around. So, you know, take comfort in the fact that, you guys aren't alone. You've got like-minded people out there, and they're here in this class with you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It was a tangent. Anyway, what will we be doing this semester? Well, this is more about the structure of the semester. Um, so you'll be working with your head and your hands, and you'll work towards being a technology creator, not just a consumer of technology. That's a big thing. I had sort of a long tangent about that in my middle school class, but nowadays we're running into a more interconnected world as far as people and technology are concerned. You'd be hard pressed to get through a day, just a normal day where you wake up in your bed and you go to sleep in your bed at night and you do all your stuff throughout the day without touching technology in some fashion or another, without interacting with it, without being aware of it, without it affecting your life in some way. Technology is everywhere. It's everywhere. And being able to contribute to that world of growing, technology and that ever-expanding sort of collection of things and stuff, um, well, that's something that's a little bit special in and of itself. And in addition to that, it's always kind of cool to be able to, look at your smartphone and go like, hey, I know how this works. I know how all the stuff communicates with all the other stuff in order to bring up the screen. And I know what happens in the software side, and I know what happens in the hardware side, and blah, blah, blah. So being able to understand all that kind of stuff is pretty cool as well. So how are these classes structured? Well, we're going to have the class meetings. We're going to have our online labs, which are 1 hour twice a week, where basically you sit here at the computer and I sit here at my computer and I tell you guys about stuff and teach you guys things and tell you how to do stuff. And, there might be some hands-on portion that happens where I'll walk you through a process and you guys do it at home. There might be just a more lecture-based oriented thing where I sit here and I talk to you guys about a concept for an hour or so. I'm going to try and minimize a lot of that lecture stuff, and I'm going to still try and keep it more interactive or at least more interesting, just to sort of keep you guys on your toes. But at any rate, that is going to happen twice a week online. It's going to be 8 o'clock Monday and Wednesday. I do have a class right before this, so there might be a few times where I happen to pop in at like 8:03, but I'll run over in order to ensure you guys still have like the full hour and all that stuff. Oh, things. Well, Webster's dictionary defines things as, I don't actually have that memorized off the top of my head, but we got actually a list of stuff we're going to go over in a couple of slides here. So you'll get a taste of what's to come. We're not going to have any homework. We're not going to have any tests. The reason for that is because that's not really the point of it. The point of it is not to, the point of it is not to be like, hey, you guys learned this stuff, now tell us exactly how much you've, remembered. It's not a traditional class in that sense. This is extracurricular for you guys. This is above and beyond what your normal, classroom sort of setup is. Whether you're going to a public school or a private school or you're homeschooled or whatever. This is above and beyond that. This is meant to foster interest in you guys for engineering in some way or another. It's meant to create some sort of seed of something so that you can nurture that and turn it into a full-blown engineering career down the line, maybe. And it sort of defeats the purpose if, because not everything is going to necessarily be the thing that you're most interested in. You may not like the coding portion of it, but you really like the soldering portion of it, or you may not like the robotics portion of it, but you really think the website creation is cool, or something like that. And we're not, in that sense, it kind of punishes you for not enjoying something as much if we have you do homework and tests and stuff like that and grade you on it. And for taking this which goes above and beyond your normal school studies. Plus, it's just more work on you guys, which you aren't necessarily going to have the time for with a normal high school load. At any rate, we're not going to have any of that stuff, and so don't sweat it. There may be stuff I might ask you to do between one class to another. It's like, oh, hey, so in preparation for next class, I ask that you download a thing, or that you set this thing up, or something like that, but it's not going to be homework per se. We will be creating a digital portfolio. Some of you may already have one, some of you may not. If you do have one, well, the stuff we go over this semester will be sort of like an addition to it, to show like maybe how things have changed since last year. Those of you who haven't before, we'll go over the ins and outs of setting that up so that you can get one set up. You might go, why would I want a digital portfolio? Well, you'll be able to show off all the stuff that you make and stuff that you do to like friends and family and things like that. And digital portfolio, it's going to be a website that is going to have like just basically space where you can put your stuff on it. The website itself will be kind of like a digital portfolio because you'll make it. You might also have pictures from like work you've done. You might also have examples of code that you've created. You might have things like that. So it's sort of a showcase of your work that's online. Yeah, and the whole point of that is, to be able to show stuff to other people, and also, you can continually add to it throughout time and see how you've improved since like your early projects and things like that. It's always kind of an encouraging thing to do. If you feel like you've hit a wall, or you feel like you haven't improved or something like that, you can always spend time looking at your old stuff and being like, wow, yeah, I really have improved then. Okay, cool. Now we're going to have a physical lab session as well. So there's going to be 1 2-hour lab every other week for Charlotte. Most of the time on Thursday. However, this next week it's going to be Tuesday because Charlotte Latin is going to be otherwise preoccupied with Parents' Night, or Meet the Teachers Night, I guess. And for those of you who cannot make it on Thursdays to the lab in Charlotte, whether you're outside of Charlotte or you have other, obligations on that day, there will be Saturday labs as well. So there is that, and you're going to be doing a lot of hands-on stuff and applying a lot of the things that I spent time talking to you guys about, and doing additional things on top of that.
Hey, and by the way, Tom, I'm stepping back in. I just had to step out a minute ago to add, just tomorrow night, we have our first lab for the people that come on Thursday nights. Then I know we have people out of town generally, and some people can't make it Thursdays, come on Saturdays. Just to remind you that our first lab this week will be on Thursday. 2 weeks from now, it'll be on a Tuesday because of Charlotte Latin's Parents' Night. We have Parents' Nights for 2 weeks straight here. But we're really, I can't stress it enough, and Tom's going to talk about this a lot. Come to these webinars, because the more you learn how to do with the software online or the topics we're talking about, it will help you. If you know by installing Inkscape and you know how to use Inkscape, then when you come to lab, you're spending less time trying to figure out how to use Inkscape and more time in making a second set of stickers or making a cooler cooler vinyl sticker for your hat. You know how you make t-shirts? You can either use silk screen method or you can use thermal press method, is one way it's called. And that's where we take a vinyl sticker, it's got adhesives, we put a lot of heat on it, and then it's glued right to your hat. We will have that capability. You're going to get a chance to do that. Thank you, Tom.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's pretty cool. So, being able to do more of the hands-on stuff as well will definitely also help make things seem more fun and interesting. Um, yeah, so normally Thursday, Saturday if you can't make it, next week Tuesday.
No, no, Saturday. Whoa. Let me jump in on that. You're scheduled either for Thursdays or Saturdays. Saturday isn't kind of a makeup. If you have to once in a while make it up, you can. But we've got people set up for Thursdays. You've already know on your schedule or Saturdays. Okay, just
Okay.
want to clarify that.
Oh,
Uh,
mistake. Okay, so there you go. Oh, yeah, and we'll be going over other stuff in addition to that as well. So, yeah. So the kinds of topics we'll be covering this semester. Um, Also, nice Morse code there, Mateo. Building your own website. So that's part of the digital portfolio sort of aspect. We'll start out with building your own website using HTML and CSS and things like that. Engraving and vinyl cutting. So using a using a vinyl cutter or an engraver. So basically something with a sharp metal tip on it to be able to make stuff. Soldering, melting metal, attaching it to other metals. Well, that's more on the electrical side. It's not exactly welding, but Anyway, laser cutter. So just like a vinyl cutter, except with lasers. Programming. Excellent language or excellent question. Not entirely sure. Although as it gets closer, we'll have a better idea. Milling. Milling is using basically milling is sort of like it's a way to cut through materials that involves a lot of times either the material or the bit spinning, as I understand it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, that's milling. So like, you can use milling to cut through like plywood or metal, things like that.
I think what Tom is saying is right. It's not so much grinding as this is cutting. To add to the details of this, folks, this year you're going to make a small cornhole game like you see everywhere, but we're going to make that. We're going to cut it on a laser cutter and put on and show you some new techniques you haven't learned before in the past. We've taught you Arduinos. This is the first year you're going to actually make the Arduinos from scratch. We're going to mill them, solder in the components, be set to go, and then use that same Arduino to run that robotic hand. The one you see right there, we'll do it in black, but it'll be still in acrylic. You'll cut it, you'll modify it, you'll make it yourself. So if last year you said, well, I used the laser cutter, well, we're using it in a different way this time. We're going to teach you some more techniques. And in terms of Arduino, this is a direct result of me and others taking the Fab Academy course. I'm going to show you a bunch of things that I've learned, which is, I think, made me a better engineering teacher, a better engineer, and I can't say how excited I am to get you guys in the labs, playing with the toys, and making stuff. And just the whole range of things we're going to make, I think you're going to be very impressed and pleased.
Yeah, like
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's a whole bunch of stuff you guys are gonna be doing. Also, you guys are gonna be making robotic hands. Like that's really cool.
And, and let me throw out too, in case you're saying, well, hey, I made a Google site last year. One, we can review it. Two, you're in high school now. You really need to have that digital portfolio so when you apply to college. So that way you have that. So when someone asks you, well, how do we know you want to be a programmer? How do we know you want to be an engineer? You say, I've been making this stuff since I've been in high school. I've been doing this maybe since I've been in middle school. And you can show them these things. So, and when we get into Inkscape, for example, we're going to show you advanced techniques. So last year you might have seen Inkscape. This year, I guarantee you, we're doing stuff what's called parametric designs. We're going to show you how to do a better box kind of designs, how to clone things and tile them. So trust me on this. You're going to get to do a lot of neat and interesting things.
Yeah, exactly, Brendan. Just different kinds of toys. And your idea of what a toy is might change as well. It might just become a huge laser cutter instead of a G.I. Joe with a kung fu grip. Although, hey, I ain't judging, you know, if you still like the Kung Fu Grip G.I. Joe, you know.
Judge.
But yeah, so real quick test. Let's have everybody raise their virtual hand.
Caleb, the language, I don't know if Tom might have mentioned this. I just jumped in there and saw this commercial. A lot of C+, we're going to be working on Java and C++ type languages to work with the Arduinos and take it just to another level this time. Go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry. Keep running you off here. You're going to be really happy when I sign out here.
No worries. I'm pretty excited to hear about C++ type stuff because I really am a big fan of the C family of languages. And yeah, Arduino is very similar to that. So it's a, you know, if you get familiar with Arduino, you'll actually be very comfortable with like Java and C and C++ and stuff like that. More so C++ and C# than C itself. But yeah, similar syntax. Hey, no worries, Sam. Welcome back. Yeah. I see that you got it raised. I'm gonna go ahead and oh, there we go. Perfect. C++ is a lot of fun. And Unity. Yeah, Unity is C# or JavaScript, depending upon what you're more comfortable with. But yeah, definitely. Make sure you guys have registered for all the webinars that you can register for. I know that we can't always schedule them all the way out throughout the semester, so a lot of times you'll also receive like an email partway through the semester for the next set of webinars, so just keep an eye out for that. Make sure you register for all of them so that, you know, we can all you know, make sure we show up on time and stuff like that. Now, in case you run into a situation where you can't make one, that's okay. I'm recording all these. I'm in fact recording this one now. Place them up on YouTube, either like the night of or the morning after, so that they're available very soon afterwards, and you guys can, you know, review them at your own pace to be prepared for the next class. So in case you have to miss like one or maybe even a few, you can always watch the videos to get caught back up. I have lots of robots and quadcopters that I've built but do not know how to program. Will I be able to learn how to do that? Well, you'll get a better feel for programming in general, how programming works, how to think in a programming mindset. I don't know necessarily what languages your robots and quadcopters are going to be running in, so I can't speak necessarily for learning the syntax. However, being able to learn to think like a programmer is actually one of the most fundamental things about learning programming, because once you can learn how to think like a programmer and you know a lot of the concepts that go into programming, learning the syntax is actually a much simpler thing to do. What about not making a Saturday or Thursday lab? That's an excellent question. I don't think we really have any sort of makeup labs in case you can't make either of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, Cohen, we're really, this year, our labs are on Thursdays or on Saturdays. Okay.
Yeah, so if you're not able to make it, unfortunately, there isn't really a way to make that up. Yeah.
Now, you know, that's what we schedule. If down the road, just try to make those Thursdays and Saturdays. That's all we're trying to ask you to do. All right on that, guys?
Yeah, so there you go. Have you registered on Edmodo? If you have, fantastic. If not, let's take this opportunity right now to at least, you know, create a username and get into the group, the high school Edmodo group, because that will allow you guys to stay in contact with us. We can use that as sort of a first what's the word I'm looking for?
A first line of contact.
Thank you.
We want you to be able to, if we got to get a message to you, we're going to be on Edmodo for putting up YouTube videos. There's going to be on Facebook. So on YouTube, excuse me, YouTube videos on Facebook now, and we'll also use Facebook, but not everybody uses Facebook. We get that, so that's why we have Edmodo. If you want to contact, especially Mr. Dutoy, we highly recommend you use Edmodo. We can post it. We'll know when you get notified. If for some reason you're young engineers of today and you want to contact us directly, make sure you include a parental unit in on that email. That's just a good habit to be in. So that way we get everybody on the same page. probably what you're going to ask is a question that involves your parents driving or doing something anyway, so we want to make sure they're involved in that email.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll give you guys, we'll take about 2 or 3 minutes here to just make sure everybody's all signed up for Edmodo and registered for the group and stuff like that. And then we'll move on to the next thing.
And folks, you know what I'm going to do? It's now 8:30 at my time, and I've been been sitting in on a couple webinars here for the last 3 hours. So I'm probably going to jump off so I can head home. So again, look forward to seeing you tomorrow night at Lanton at the Fab Lab. I can't wait to show you, get started on this stuff.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Dubik.
All right. And remember, there's a handout too. Download the handout. That'll help you if you go to install Inkscape and whatnot. You do have to have, I should mention this to you all particularly, if anybody's just trying to use an iPad, that's probably not going to work.
Oh, looks like you got disconnected there. Yeah, so an iPad probably wouldn't work just because a lot of times I'll provide links through the chat box, and it'll be much more difficult to follow those links. I understand sometimes that is a necessary thing, just for whatever reason. I know I had some students last year who couldn't run both at the same time on their computer, like whatever we were doing, and a GoToWebinar. I know sometimes it can be more convenient to have it on a separate machine, things like that, but for purposes of making sure everything runs smoothly in the class and stuff like that, you probably don't need to get a newer version, Hannah. You should be fine. But yeah, just for simplicity's sake, I recommend keeping it on the same computer. If it's not possible, obviously we'll find ways to work around that, but yeah. Another one is, have you created your Gmail account? And I could expand this to be, have you created your Google account? Because a Google account will not only give you access to Gmail, it will also give you access to Google Sites, Google Drive, Google Photos, all kinds of different stuff. You can get just a whole bunch of different sort of features and all kinds of crazy fancy things. But primarily it's for the Google Sites, so we can get set up with our digital portfolio or refresh it or whatever, in which case you probably already have a Google account. But that will be a useful one for the, it should be in the chat box, Brendan. I'll go ahead and send it out again. There you go. Did you get that one? Excellent. All right, yeah, I'm going to keep moving through the lesson. If you're still setting up your Edmodo account, that's totally fine. Just keep an eye out for what's going on over here in case something crazy happens, although nothing crazy is probably going to happen. Finally, you can subscribe to it. Well, not finally, but you can subscribe to our YouTube channel for webinars. You don't have to subscribe to it. Just subscribing to it will let you know as soon as a new video gets put up, which tends to happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that kind of thing, depending upon everybody's upload speed and things like that. Make sure your parents are okay with it. I know you might be in that sort of middle ground where you do a lot of stuff on your own and you don't necessarily have to get parent permission and stuff like that. But for this kind of stuff, let's just make sure that your parents are okay with it. Just because I don't want to recommend anything that your parents are not okay with. That's not a place I want to go. I do, and in certain situations, excellent, Cohen. In certain situations, we might run into a particular situation where that might be a better avenue of contact. Sometimes, between classes and stuff like that. If a student needs additional help with setting something up or fixing something or whatever, then we can, talk through personal email and things like that. Although I would recommend trying to keep Edmodo being the first line of contact for a lot of this stuff. For sure. Finally, you can have your parents like us on Facebook so they can stay up to date with everything that's going on because, there'll be updates and stuff like that placed onto the Facebook so they can be like, oh, hey, okay, so, they're making a robot hand now. All right, cool. Or whatever. It sort of gives them an idea of what we might be going over and things like that. And I can hold on to those for now and get them out later. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about what an engineer is. Oh boy. So yeah, I mean, what is an engineer? Like we're familiar with the term. You probably get an image of in your head of what an engineer is and be like, okay, yeah, that's an engineer. It's a dude who builds things, but like there's more specificity to it than that. And that's the thing that people don't realize a lot of the time. In fact, if we were to break down exactly what an engineer does, and let's go ahead and use the dictionary definition because that's what dictionaries were invented for. It is the practical application of science and math, as in the design and construction of machines, vehicles, structures, roads, and systems. So you notice that there's a lot more there than just machines, and that probably doesn't come as a surprise to you guys. I mean, at this point, you're probably like, well, yeah, duh. I mean, engineers make more than just like machines that do weird inscrutable things like turn a widget into another differently sized and shaped widget. Although that happens a lot with engineering as well. But, engineers touch pretty much every single aspect of your everyday life. Cars, roads, water systems, electrical systems, how the electricity gets to your house, and how it's used in your devices, your computers, the software that runs them, all that kind of stuff. All those sorts of things are all touched by engineers in some fashion or another. Even the medicine that you take and the food that's on your table in many ways as well. So it can be a little bit surprising to realize what exactly is under the sort of purview of an engineer. If we were to, yeah, anyway. So in essence, though, engineers use math and science to improve the world. They use existing scientific concepts and math to be like, hey, you know what? Cars are cool, but you know what would make cars really cool? If they went twice as fast, and then they'll use math and science to do that kind of thing. And it will, and then some other engineer will be like, cars that go this fast are cool, but what's really cool? If we had better seatbelts and, whatever. It's always the incremental improvements upon stuff. So what exactly makes a good engineer? Some of you probably already know the answer to this. Well, there are many things that make a good engineer, but go ahead and throw some stuff out. Like what makes a good engineer? Persistence, planning, creativity, a quick thinker. I like these ideas. Cool glasses. Yeah, I knew somebody was going to say that. These are definitely his thinking glasses. Team player, organizational, problem-solving skills. Works well with others. Yeah. You guys pretty much hit all the proper nails on all the proper heads. It was a weird turn of phrase. Anyway, to pluralize, engineers need to be strong in math and science. They need to be problem solvers who show perseverance. So hey, here are these words. They need to be able to work as a team and communicate effectively. Hey, there are those too. To be able to use a slide rule, yeah, that can be useful too in case your computer breaks. So yeah, pretty much all these things that you guys said. They need to be able to, think outside the box. They need to be able to solve problems. They need to be able to work through difficulty. They need to be able to be strong in math and science. They need to be able to communicate with people. They need to be able to work as a team. All these things make a good engineer. So engineers need to be strong in math and science. This little meme here. Definitely true. You do a lot of studying as an engineering major. You do a lot of studying as any major in college, but as an engineering major especially, you do a lot of studying, a lot of reading. lot of book learning. Engineering is the application of math and science principles. Because of this, it is essential engineers have a strong foundation in the two subjects. And it's true. Now you don't necessarily need to be like a super whiz-bang math guy or girl, or the best science person in the world or anything like that, because there are different specializations which require different amounts of expertise in math and science. But all engineers pretty much need to study hard in math or science classes because whatever their subject is, it's going to utilize those subjects in order to be able to solve problems. They need to be able to work as a team and communicate effectively. So, Dwight Schrute, thank you. The penultimate perennial, that's the word I was looking for, the perennial communicator. Solve great problems. Engineers of different backgrounds must come together to combine their expertise. In order for a team to be successful, you need to be able to not just know the answer, but share it in a clear way others will be able to understand. Now, there you go. That helps you out, Colin. Not a fan of it, Mateo. So yeah, basically, no real problem is solved alone. Or no problem is really solved alone. A lot of times you bounce ideas off of other people and you work together as a group. You do different things. You try different things out. Whatever. But it also means that you need to be able to, yeah, you get help on the way, exactly. But you need to be able to communicate effectively with the people that you're working with, because you might have the best idea in the world. It might be fantastic, but if you can't, like, you're just like, okay, so people go like, okay, let's hear your idea. And you're like, well, we take this one thing, right? And we do a thing to it, and suddenly it works. And people go, all right, like, that doesn't make any sense. And your idea might be thrown by the wayside in favor of somebody else who can communicate their idea more effectively, even if it is not as effective of a solution. I mean, that just happens. That happens a lot of the time. A lot of times you utilize the solution that you can understand and even if it's not necessarily the best solution that's on hand, because you always make the best decision you can. Here's a comic illustrating in a humorous fashion a classic miscommunication issue. What the user asked for. And you'll notice that you've got what the user asked for, how the analyst saw it, how the system was designed, as the programmer wrote what the user really wanted, and how it actually works. So even what the user asked for and what the user really wanted are two separate things, because a lot of times people have a hard time communicating effectively what exactly they want when they don't necessarily understand what it is that they're using. Like, you could say, to go back to the car example, somebody says, I'm going to build you a car. How do you want it? And you go like, okay, well, I want it to go fast and I want it to look cool. Seems pretty straightforward, right? But you get a car back that goes, 60 miles an hour and looks like some 80s sci-fi thing. And you go like, nice, Caleb. I want wheels and a steering wheel. And you get it back and you're like, I hate this. This is terrible. And they go, well, 60 miles an hour is really fast when you think about it. And I think this car looks super cool. And you go like, okay, well, that's not really what I was asking for at all. But okay. But it could just be ineffective communication. So, and you can see here how the analyst saw it. After the user asks for something, the analyst goes like, okay, so this is what they want, I think, based on the description that they received. Built a time machine out of a DeLorean. That's heavy, Doc. I would say rip off. Yeah, Yeah, essentially. I mean, and that's why things like designs or blueprints were invented, was in order to be able to communicate more effectively um, ideas and stuff like that. But communication is always an issue, and to be able to communicate effectively and mitigate that sort of thing, that's a pretty invaluable skill as an engineer. Exactly, for correct communication. They need to be problem solvers who show perseverance. Here's I guess the scumbag college professor, but he doesn't really have the hat, so maybe it's like the pedantic college professor or something, who knows. Half credit, if you built a bridge and collapsed and killed everyone, would you get half credit? Another day of guess that meme. Um, yeah, he does. Engineers are presented with huge problems that they need to break down into manageable tasks. They are technical puzzle solvers. And, I read that and I was like, yeah, this is totally true because, I like to do programming. And that's how I approach programming is solving a puzzle. It's a logical puzzle that there are 100 bajillion different answers to, that, and even more incorrect answers to. Um, so, that's what a lot of engineering is. It's just kind of like they're solving a puzzle with a lot of different variables. So all great problems seem impossible when you start. Engineers must learn to work hard throughout projects and persevere through setbacks. All great problems seem impossible when you start. I used this example in my middle school class. Um, we were just barely breaking the sound barrier when we started talking about going into space. Not long after that, we started talking about getting to the moon. We started talking about getting to the moon before the Russians did, and then it was or the Soviets, excuse me, before the end of the decade. And everybody went like, "Huh, this is crazy. How do we do that?" When you're just talking about things that barely scratch the sort of the edge of the sky, how do you get somebody to the moon and back safely? But what you do is you break it down into smaller steps. You get somebody to the edge of the sky. You get somebody a little bit beyond it. Get somebody up into space. You get somebody circling around the planet. You get a couple of somebody circling around the planet. You get a couple of somebodies in two different crafts docking the crafts together while they're in orbit around the planet. You get people spending longer periods of times in space. You get people spending long enough periods of time. It's about the same amount of time it would take them to get to the moon and back. And you get people going to the moon and coming back without actually landing on the moon. You get people going to the moon and docking stuff around the moon and then coming back. You get people going to the moon and landing on it and then coming back. Just all incrementally and iteratively done. You need to ask questions to start projects. Yeah, basically, exactly. So what kind of jobs are there for engineers? Well, we'll sort of skim through this part, but lots. There are a lot of fields of engineering, including civil, mechanical, electrical, chemical, aerospace, structural, genetic, biomedical, computer, software, military, nuclear, forensic, reverse, and environmental. And this is by no means a comprehensive list, not even remotely. Civil engineering, the art of designing, cities, in essence. Reverse engineering, taking stuff apart and figuring out how it works. That's a pretty big thing in intelligence work. um, Mechanical engineering is obviously the large machines engineering that everybody is comfortable and familiar with when they think of an engineer. Electrical engineering is the way to get power to a place and mess around with how that power is used in electronics and stuff like that. Future engineering, oh, we don't have it listed here, but like I said, this is by no means a comprehensive list. So future engineering, there you go. Chemical engineering, the art and science of creating new chemicals from other ones. Aerospace engineering, creating planes and spaceships. Genetic engineering, yes, engineering genes. Structural engineering, buildings, biomedical, prosthetics, and artificial organs and drugs and things like that. Computers, software, military, boats and tanks and planes, nuclear reactors, forensic, crime-related, environmental, the environment, reverse, like I said, taking stuff apart and putting it back together. Yeah, exactly. It's recreating the dinosaurs. Genetic. Perfect. But we've already learned from Jurassic World, so we're just going to create regular old dinosaurs. So yeah, don't think of engineering as just a guy in a hard hat, because there's a whole bunch of different kinds of engineering. From hands-on research to leading a team. Now, perks of the job, well, start out with median earnings by major group. Just a general engineering degree, bachelor's degree, $75,000. So median being the exact middle. It's not the lowest, it's not the highest. It lies exactly in the middle. With a master's degree, 99,000. Computers and mathematics, 70,000 bachelors, 89,000 masters. Business, 60,000 bachelors, 80,000 masters. Oh, no worries. I mean, it all pops up in the question box, so it's not like it's really all that interrupting. It's totally fine. And I'm glad to have people who have input and stuff like that, so don't worry about it, Cohen. Same with health. 60,000 bachelors, 80,000 masters. Physical sciences, 59,000 bachelors, 90,000 masters. Social science, 55,000 bachelors, 85,000 masters. Agriculture and natural resources, 50,000 bachelors and 70,000 masters. So as you can see, engineering is pretty high up there. Pretty high up there. Now, as far as majors within the engineering umbrella, petroleum, chemical, electrical, materials science, aerospace, computer, you're looking at anywhere from like $60,000 to $160,000, depending upon the major and how far you are in your career. Because the light blue is sort of like mid-career and the dark blue below it is the median starting salary. So again, median. Can you imagine petroleum engineering coming out of college, making $100,000 a year? Maybe 10 years down the line, making $160,000 a year. Like, dang. 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 That's a lot of money. Sorry, I thought I'd let that sink in for a second while I muted the microphone and coughed. Anyway, yes. And a pretty high amount of satisfaction, too. I mean, if you're looking at a large enough sample size of people, satisfied or very satisfied, having 54% of your respondents respond with that answer is impressive. Because, you know, you take a small enough sample size, your numbers are going to be all over the place. You ask 3 people, you might get 100%, or you might get 0%. You ask 10 people, you might get, you know, 80% or 10%. As you get larger and larger sample sizes, everything's gonna sort of even out more. Yeah, there's not a lot of people who like psychology apparently. But yeah, that's kind of. But as you get larger and larger groups of people, it's going to be harder and harder to sort of um, get incredibly high or incredibly low values like that, specifically incredibly high. Yep. Yeah, some YouTubers make an insane amount of money, and for that reason, yeah, like I like engineering for the reason of, you know, being able to help people out, definitely. or do something that sort of contributes to the world, you know. And you can argue that people who make content and put it on YouTube are contributing in an entertainment sense. But you know, being able to make something with engineering and stuff like that, that certainly feels like a more tangible benefit to the world. Certainly depending upon what you're working on and things like that. So I can totally understand that. All right, let me go ahead and give you guys the download link for Inkscape, just so that you guys have that. Just running up my Raspberry Pi 3. Perfect. All right, so here is the download link for Inkscape. Bam. Select your operating system. It's going to be version 0.091. If you have an older version already installed, that's fine. If you have the current version already installed, you're bam, excellent. So this is just if you don't have Inkscape at all, let's go ahead and get the download started. Now, let's see here. I'm going to stay on certainly until 9 o'clock, just in case we have any questions. Normally, though, around this time, we'll start asking poll questions. Just sort of like, did you enjoy the material today? Did you find it interesting? Did it make sense? Blah, 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 stuff like that. Were you prepared, etc. Today, we'll kind of skip that just because it was just the introductory thing. It was super informal. I'm glad you enjoyed it. All right, no problem, Caleb. Do what you got to do. Take it easy. But yeah, normally we'll be asking the poll questions at the end of the class and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll also again keep you guys on for like the full 30 minutes and stuff like that, and I'll be able to stay a little bit afterwards to help you guys out. Do all that kind of stuff. But otherwise that does it. If you've already got Inkscape downloaded and you don't have any questions about anything, you're more than welcome to head out. How do I download Inkscape? Well, I put a download link into the chat box. I'll go ahead and boop. There you go. We'll go ahead and follow that link. You're going to have a few different operating system selections. All right, no problem, Hannah. Have a good night. Have a good weekend, in fact. Now, show of hands, how many of you have a Mac and do not already have Inkscape installed? All right. So, in that case, you're going to need to download Xquartz. I'm going to put that into the chat box as well. Now, Xquartz is an emulator for Windows operating system, just like on the back end kind of stuff, so that Inkscape can run. The X or X Windows system. Yep, there you go. You don't have a Mac or Inkscape? Okay, well then just download Inkscape for either Windows or Linux, depending upon what your operating system is. And you'll be good to go. We'll probably spend some time installing next Monday. But yeah, if you do have a Mac, you'll need Xquartz as well in order for it to run. And it will be a bit of a slog because it will be, yeah. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But at any rate, yeah, like I said, if you're either downloading Inkscape right now or you already have it downloaded, you don't have any more questions, you're more than welcome to head out. All right, excellent. Glad to hear it. All right, well, you're more than welcome to head out then, and we'll start the install on Monday for you guys. Yes, sir. Yeah, you're more than welcome to head out, Vincent. Um, if you've already got everything done. Yeah, usually I'll end it with a little bit more clarity than that. All right, excellent. Glad to hear it, Colin. But yeah, definitely done, Vincent. All right, no problem, Colin. Have a great weekend. Thank you. All right, Sam. I think I'm going to be shutting everything down. You got any questions about anything?